Hey, good morning. Just saw your request this morning, Renee. So, okay, let me solve whatever the question that you sent. I think you need help on all six of them for correction. So, let's go. Okay. So, first one, this is a calculation question. Rules for calculation question is always number one. If there's an equation, write a balanced equation. So some students are, oh no, I don't know this thing about this metal M. So how do I write equation? So just write M. Just write MOH, right? So we don't know what's the charge. We just write in first. Then later on we can deal with the charge left and right? So MOH plus H2O. We do know H2 not H2 H2SO4. Then we get MSO4. Same thing, we don't know the charge. We just write in that first. Plus H2O. Okay, then we do calculations. 10, this is for hydroxide. 10 divided by 1000 times 2, right? So if you take 10 divided by 1000 times 2, we get the mole. Okay, two rules in all calculations. Always look for balancing of equations. Once equation is formed, always translate all information into mole. That's the first two steps to 99% of all questions. Okay, so do the same thing with sulfuric acid. We take 50 divide 1000 times 0.2. Then you should get 0.01. So mole. So this proves that MOH and H2SO4 is 2:1 ratio. Since it's a 2, right? This 2 should translate to be a 2:1 ratio. Since this is a 2:1, so now we do balancing. Here has 2M. And here also has 2OH. So but here only has one SO4, right? So that means that there's a high chance that here has a 2. Because 2M and 2M balance, SO4 stays as 1. So you get M2 SO4. Answer should be A for question 16. Okay, so that's that. So question 17. Question 17 says that what you wrote up here is a very interesting one, and it's correct. Because if you were to consider Cu2O, O is 2 minus. In order for this 2 to stay around, Cu has to be 4 plus. So cross 2, 4. No, that's not true. Cu in this case shouldn't be 4 plus, right? Cu in this case should be 1. So should be Cu plus and 1. So in this case you got Cu2O. So the charge actually should be 2, 1 and not so should be plus, not 4 plus. So therefore we will examine the question. It says copper is present in as Cu2 plus. That's definitely wrong because you've proven that it's Cu plus. So that's not A, not number 1. 1 mole of Z contains 128 grams of copper and 16 grams oxygen. So this one, your MR, Cu2O, right? So this one is 64 times 2. You get 128, right? And then oxygen is 16 grams. So 1 mole. The word 1 mole means that it's molar mass. So 2 is correct. So circle that up. The empirical formula of Z is Cu2O. It's already the simplest ratio. Right? It's already the simplest ratio. It cannot be further lowered because it's 2:1. So 3 is also correct. Number 4, 1 mole of oxygen molecules is needed to make 1 mole of 1 mole of Z. So by this, let's do balancing, right? So Cu plus O2, oxygen, because oxygen molecules, makes you Cu2O. Balancing, here's a 2, add a 2 here. So you get a 2:1. So this is 2:1. So 1 more oxygen will make 1 mole. That's not true. So this 2:1:1. 1 mole of oxygen molecule is needed to make 1 mole. So you need to do a balancing, sorry. So this is a 2, 2 to 4. Here is a 4 for balancing. So by that, this one should be a 1:2, right? So 1 mole of oxygen will make 2 moles of Z. That's why the answer of 4 is also not correct. So answer should be 2 and 3. Okay. Question 18. Which of the reagents used to prepare insoluble salts? Insoluble salts. Insoluble salts means that if we were to combine things, so we need to think about what gets combined. So insoluble salts means precipitation. If it's precipitation, it means that sorry, this color a bit hard to see. Precipitation, right? Precipitation means that something soluble plus soluble gives you an insoluble, right? So soluble plus soluble gives you an insoluble. So if you pick A, let's say your answer is A, silver oxide is not soluble. All oxides are insoluble except for, so all oxides are insoluble except for spar, group 1, barium, calcium. Of course, I agree. You said silver chloride is the insoluble salt. I agree. But the starting material must be soluble. Therefore, the answer is actually calcium nitrate, sodium sulfate, and then form sodium sulfate. Sorry, calcium sulfate. That's the insoluble salt. This question is purely on getting familiar with your solubility table. Okay, so your solubility table, if you're not sure, I've sent you one at the end of this. I'll send you a table for a reference as well. So if you're not sure, just message me, tag me on the Discord board, and I should be able to talk about this directly with you. Okay, so this is the first part. Let me put in the second part, yeah? The second part of the three questions. Okay, so all these 3 questions are all calculation questions. Okay, waiting for you to load for a while. All these questions are calculations question. And calculation question mainly, as I said, if it's got equation, please always do equations, balance it, and it will always be a great tool to double check your work to prevent mistakes. 2, always convert things into mole. So perfect. Look at this question. It actually give you an balance equation out front. Okay. So on heating, ammonium nitrate decomposed to form dinitrogen oxide and water. So what you have here is basically, let's just write down that. So it's, oh no, the color, I don't like the color. NH4NO3 become N2O plus H2O. Okay, so if you read this question, the first thing is 90 grams of impure. We cannot use 90 grams already because 90 grams is impure. But then 28 grams of water is formed. So it means that technically speaking, there's a mole ratio of 2. They want to find the purity to the first one. It's 2:1. So if water is 28 grams, that means it's 2 mole, right? So in this case, we get 28 grams over 18 to find mole. Okay, so when you do that, 28 over 18, then what you do is you'll be able to find the mole, and the mole has to divide by 2. Okay, so let's look at this. So if you were to take NH4, N is 14, H is 4, N is another 14, plus 16 times 3, you get 80. So we identified that 80 is actually the MR for NH4 NO3. So if you have this equals to 80, so what happened now is this is 2:1. So somehow this has to divide. Somehow this number has to divide by 2. And once it divide by 2, then has to divide by 2 for the mole ratio, multiply molar mass, which is 80. And then once you multiply over molar mass, whole thing has to divide by the original mass of 90. So if you rearrange, you should get 28 over if it's divide this this can be combined, then you get 30, you get 36 times 80, since over 90, right? So over 90 times 100%. Answer should be B. I think everything you did for A is correct, with the exception that you didn't take into account of 2:1. So therefore the bottom 36 was not accounted for. So it should be times 80 over 90 times 80 to become molar mass to mole to become grams over 90. Answer should be B. Yes, I'm certain of it. Okay, so this one is one of the harder questions. You need to be clear with the steps and then you identify it. So if you identify the 1:2, immediately you know the answer can be either B or D due to the one that it divides. Then after that you have to think about this whole thing. You get mole, multiply by MR to get mass, divide by 90, which is the impure mass. If you're not sure about this, do message me on this as well, okay? Okay, so question 14. Question 14, same thing, got balance equation, that's perfect. Then next thing is basically change every single information conveniently into mole. If you don't do it in mole, students tend to make mistake. So 8 grams hydrogen is H2. Remember, it's always a H2. 8 divided by 2, you get 4. So you get 4 moles of hydrogen. If it's oxygen, it's 8 divided, same thing, is O2. So 16 times 2, that will be 32. Then 16 times 2, then 8 divide, and you get 0.25, right? If so 8 divide 2, you get 4. O2 divide, as at 8 grams divide 32, you get 0.25. So in this case, if it's, then we have to take into account of limiting reactant. 2:1. So if this is 2, this is to 1. So therefore 4 moles is to 2 moles. So 2 moles is impossible, because if it takes 2 moles, this is only 0.25 mole. It doesn't have enough. So obviously O2 not enough. Not enough means limiting reactant. So if you need a more detailed explanation, I can go in depth into this. Just, check me up on this. So in this case, 0.25 it's oxygen. Then water. So if you calculate everything, water will be 0.25 times 2. Water most likely is going to be 0.5 mole. Because all calculation is done on limiting reactant. This one is to this one. So if it's 0.5 mole of water times 18, you get 9 grams. Because 0.25 mole of water equals to 9 grams of H2O. Answer A. Okay, one more part. 50 grams of gaseous hydrocarbon, blah blah blah. Identify the gaseous hydrocarbon. Same thing, form equation. Things like this always need to form equation. So we know hydrocarbon, it got carbon. We don't know what's the charge. It got hydrogen. Not charge, actually. We don't know what's the charge for the ratio for both of them. We only know that this one reacts with oxygen, so highly likely to be combustion. Provide carbon dioxide and water. Write the equation out. Yes, it's incomplete, but it's still better to write that way. So it says that this is 50. So this gaseous product, so ratio can be directly compared. 50 to 250. That means this is 1:5. So if it's 1:5, let's start the balancing game. So if it's 1:5, so there is a chance that 5 to this is 10 oxygen. If this is 10 oxygen, let's say we do any forms of balancing. So in this case, O is hardest to do. CXHY. So let's try number 1, okay? You said this is C2H6. So therefore, if this is a 2, this one needs to be a 2. If this needs to be a 2, this is going to be 4 oxygen. And this one 6 will be 3 hydrogen. So this one will be 3 oxygen as well. Add up to be 7. It cannot be 10. So A is out of the question. Okay? So let's try the second one. 2 and 4, right? So if it's 2 and 4, so this will be a 2. 4 means here's a 2. It cannot, that means this doesn't make sense because this one 2 times 2, this one only 4 oxygen. 2 times, so this one 2 oxygen. It still doesn't fulfill the 10 oxygen here. So the number of hydrogen has to be higher because hydrogen will affect one number written here to increase the number of oxygen. So let's go for D to prove the thing that's wrong. 3 is in 6. That means here is a 3. Then here will be a 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Then plus 3. Then will still not be enough because you add up to be only 9 oxygen, not 10. Right? Not 10 as in 5 times 2, 10 here. So last bit, 3, 6. So add a 3. Since here 6, here will be a 3, 8. Sorry. This will be a 3. This will be a 4. 3 times 2 is 6 oxygen. And 4 oxygen in the back. Add up to be 10 oxygen. Since 10 oxygen here, 10 oxygen here. Comparatively, answer will be C. Okay, these are all 6 questions that you sent. In case certain explanations are not clear, do message me about it. Else, I'll be just clarify with me when I'm online or something. Okay, just drop me a message and tag me, or any more of my students will help you. That will be wonderful as well. Okay, all the best. Thank you.